Welcome to What's the Deal with Sam? Starring Sam Lilly. Join Sam as he discusses a wide variety of topics.
Bad mail.
Now let's start the show.
Thank you. It's the new sensation that's sweeping the nation. It's the new Nintendo Switchuation. I had that as like a very much more exciting thing in my head. I was gonna say it all crazy like, and then I realized I was gonna seem insane if I did that. And we got enough archival footage of me being insane, so I thought I'd say it more normal like. And talking about this thing with these new Nintendo Switches that are coming out, or depending on when you're watching this, coming out, are out, whatever, what the fuck ever, man. You know what I fucking mean. Hey, can we fix this so I look taller? Cool. Look how much taller I am after I adjusted the thing slightly. So much taller that I said it. So the thing with this is that I just kind of wanted to talk about this little bit here, where I guess if this comes out in a relevant timing, I guess you may have already heard about this thing, the Nintendo Switch getting a new variant. It's getting the Nintendo Switch Lite, which is not really what I want to talk about, but is something we should mention. Essentially, that is, if you don't know by now, it's just a smaller Nintendo Switch that's all built in, so you don't have you can't take off the sides like Joy-Cons or anything. It's just a smaller thing made as just a handheld, and it's for portable play because it's a handheld. So it's supposed to be more portable and better for that kind of thing, and is going to cost only $200 instead of $300 is the whole thing they're pushing with that. But, I mean, that's whatever. Like, that, the only issues I really have with that, I guess, are that, what if the control sticks have this pull that, Joy-Cons have developed, where it's like just drifts to in a direction, and you need to replace them or something. It's like, with this, you can't just replace those with different Joy-Cons. You'd have to send your system in to get looked at, or somehow find a way to fix it yourself, or worst case scenario, get an entirely fucking another Switch Lite, which would be ridiculous and stupid. The other thing is that, it's called a Switch Lite, and it doesn't switch anything. Like, that was the name of the Switch, is to kind of say, like, oh yeah, you switch between a console and a handheld. That's sort of the idea. You can play on your TV and then switch to be playing on the go, and then switch back to, you can switch between them. With the Switch Lite, you can't put it in the dock. There's no dock for that, so it doesn't really switch between anything unless they're planning to release, like, a Switch Lite dock later on. And if that's the case, why? Why release the dock, like, later? I don't know, that seems like a weird idea. But, I don't know. What do I know? I'm just some fat fuck on the internet. What I wanted to talk about is actually the model redesign they're doing. Which actually, like, at this point, the Switch Lite isn't quite out yet from me recording this, but what is out is this model variant of the original Switch. And when I say model variant, I mean, it's think of something like the Game Boy Advance SP AGS 101 model variant, where unlike the AGS 001, which was front lit, the AGS 101 was backlit, that kind of a thing, where, like, they seem pretty identical when you look at them. It's just that there's just slightly better features, on one than the other. That kind of thing going on. It's pretty close like that. There's a few little design elements. It supposedly has a better processor, I guess, but as far as I've heard from people doing tests and doing stuff with it, it doesn't really mean anything for this. It's just like, it I guess maybe uses resources better or something and makes it more efficient. Because the main thing is that it has better battery life, and that I don't know if that's because it has a better battery in it, or if the better processor helps it use resources more efficiently and doesn't eat up as much battery, or what. But having more battery life is just awesome, and that's the main thing. Like, there's a few other little minor things that don't really matter that much. At least if you want to go and look at all the little details, go ahead. Definitely, if you already have a Switch and you're thinking maybe I should upgrade to that, those are things you want to look into to see if it's even fucking worth it. But the most significant thing is that battery life. You're going to get a few more hours of gameplay out of it, depending on what you're playing. And settings and whatever the fuck else, general shit you have to be aware of. You should be aware of by now. And I guess that sounds like a good thing to have that, but it's really weird because what's going on with that is just kind of the way they're doing it is they're sort of phasing out the old Nintendo Switches. They're kind of just going to replace the old models with these new ones, which once that's done, great. When you go to get a Switch, you don't have to think about it. You're just getting an all-around better Switch. Awesome. You don't have to worry about this different name. They're not calling it like the new Nintendo Switch or something, or Nintendo Switch U or something. They're not doing some weird naming thing. They're just adding a model name, and I think they're just adding like an in parentheses like hyphen like 01 or something, and it's in like a more like all red box instead of like a red and grayish box or something. And the thing is, right now we're still in that transition period, and also the thing is so if you go in to buy one, you might accidentally get the older Switch model. Not like it's that big of a deal, but if you could just be getting a better one and you don't know any better, like many consumers won't know, and because it's not being advertised, many people just in general won't know. It sort of becomes this thing of like, well, it's possible you're going to get kind of screwed there because I believe they're going to be priced the same. And what they're essentially going to do is phase out that other Switch model so that if you're going to get a Switch, it's still going to be $300 for this, this, what people might even think is just this older version of the Switch, even though it's a slight redesign. It's essentially the same kind of thing you've been able to get for a few years now, 2.5 years or whatever. And then the Switch Lite is supposed to be the cheaper option. That's kind of the point. And I guess they didn't want to have like a $200 Switch Lite and then have like, oh, this new variant of the Switch is now $300, and in the middle is like the old Switch, which is like what, like they're going to be like $250 or $280 or something, like a price cut in between there. They don't want to like compete with themselves, I guess, and so they're just kind of phasing that stuff out. So if you're going to get one recently, or especially if you're getting something used or online, you'd have to be careful, and not everybody's going to know. It's not super obvious because they're not making it this really obvious thing. They're not really advertising it. It makes sense because they don't want to pull sales or anything away from the Switch Lite that's coming out already. So it's weird timing to put this variant out, and also because they could wait and actually get more attention for this, and get this as another selling point, as another big push for selling things. But I don't know, it's a kind of it's a thing that's like I understand, but also it kind of sucks for anyone who's hoping for a price drop in the Switch, like I was. And it also is kind of weird, I guess, that that's happening, because then it's like, what do you get? This one is going to be nice for you still want to do both of those things, and it's mostly like all the features you get from a regular Switch, but for upgrading, it's not really necessarily worth doing unless you really want a slightly better Switch. I don't know. I don't know, man. It's weird. It's strange and weird. And I just thought I would bring it up because it was interesting to talk about. And I think that's the thing I guess people aren't really necessarily thinking about, that I've heard talk about it a bit too, is this idea that the way they're handling it, it's like they're going to just make it so you're not going to be able to get a cheaper Switch unless you get the Lite. You can't get a price cut in the original Switch. So if you wanted to still do the switching things, you have to still get, the new variant probably, or if you want to get it cheaper, you'll most likely end up having to get a used older model of the Switch, and like for someone like me, I want it to be cheaper, but I still want it to be new. I'm going to be kind of screwed over in that regard anyway. So that was sort of the thinking there. I guess that I didn't hear a lot of people mention, I didn't hear a lot of people talk about. But again, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this anyway because Nintendo hasn't really advertised it a whole lot. It's just kind of under wraps. Like, this is a thing that's out there, and they're not like hiding it or denying it or anything. They're just not really promoting it. And that makes sense, given that the Switch Lite is coming, but, as much as it's going to be easy for consumers long term later on, it is going to kind of, be weird in the transition period. And anybody who already has a Switch, they're just kind of gonna have to be like, do I want to trade in my Switch while it still has a good amount of value and I can pay so much to just get this slight upgrade, or do I want to bother? Why wasn't this just the original design? I don't know. It's not significantly different, so like it's hard. It's a hard sell. It's mostly for people who don't already have a Switch and are like, I want to get one. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. It's the Switchuation that's it's like constipation with the ground. Classic constipation. Play at home. See your toilet, only pee in it, don't poop. That's the game. That's the name.
What's the deal with Sam? What's the deal with Sam? What's the deal with Sam? What's the deal